All right, top of the fifth here. We have our first ever guest. Good friend of the show, Matt Michaels, joins us. We love Matt, even though we are Cardinal fans, and he is a Cubs fan. July 28th, the baseball world lost Ryne Sandberg, one of the better players of our generation. So we thought it'd be cool to bring Matt on, diehard Cubby fan, to talk about Mr. Sandberg and kind of what he meant to the Cubs fan, and then kind of talk about those glory days between the Cardinals, Cubs, late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. It kind of hit Cubs fans like a gut punch, and I am of the time frame where some of my childhood years where I would have just started to realize maybe who the players were on the field playing baseball, and Sandberg was one of them. This would have been after his retirement or his unretirement, and he was playing for the Cubs for a couple of seasons when he came back to the game. And so that's where I had my first exposure to him. And it was well beyond the years in which he was, the best player on the field at times, but he always carried himself with such a confidence. You knew that the glove would be really good at a position at second base that still is, I think, a premium position in terms of having the right glove. And you knew that he had the respect of all of his teammates, and that Cubs fans universally loved him. And then the more that I grew up and learned about him and about, again, how he carried himself in the clubhouse, how he was quiet but a leader in terms of being on the field, the different things that he did that nobody had done before him, and it helped me appreciate his place in the game. And so when we got the news on Monday, I actually happened to be driving from a softball game and turned on the radio and got scratchy Cubs broadcast, and I could tell that they were sad. And I thought, well, is it like an announcement that Sandberg had gone into hospice or something? Because he had made some recent announcements saying that he wanted to prioritize spending time with his family, and it was the announcement that he passed. And it just was so sad. And Cubs fans that I know that are of my generation were equally struck with just, it's a shame that even a day that you knew was probably coming after his bout with cancer, you still hated the news and thought, this is a terrible, terrible day for someone who was so great and so beloved by generations, maybe even some that didn't even get to really see him play. And I think that's the impact that he had on the Cubs, and taking a team that, had not been to the playoffs in over 30 years and being one of the centerpieces of that team, that 1984 season with the Sandberg game. I mean, I think about Hall of Famers, and there are very few of them in the Baseball Hall of Fame that have their own game named after them. You can probably list it on one hand, and he's one of them, because it set the track for that season, it set the track for his career, and made him really on the superstar trajectory that he was destined, I guess, to take. That's what made him the name and the face of what the Cubs would be there for some heady years in the late 80s.
First of all, this is the Cardinals podcast, so we refer to that as the Willie McGee game.
Of course you do.
Matt is referencing the 1984 game where Sandberg took Bruce Sutter deep, I believe, in the 9th and 10th inning to win the national broadcast on NBC. He was the first second baseman to ever hit 40 home runs, and back-to-back years hitting 30 or more, which is insane at a time when second base shortstop during the 80s and 90s were not really a power premium position, as it became later in the 90s, and now everybody can kind of hit 40 bombs from each spot. Career fielding percentage 989, 10-time All-Star, 9-time Gold Glove, Silver Slugger Award winner, and like you mentioned, the 1984 MVP. We really got to kind of looking at his legacy and what he means to Cubs fans. Are they wearing patches for Sandberg? I haven't seen a lot of anything other than trade deadline stuff kind of moving the last couple of days.
I'm pretty sure that they're doing, the standard, and they would. I mean, they were able to honor Sandberg in just recent years, in the past 2 or 3, if my memory serves me, with his own statue outside of Wrigley Field. And they've been doing that increasingly for numbers of Cubs, but one who absolutely deserves it is Sandberg. I mean, he scored 100 runs 7 times, and he hit 25 home runs or more 6 times in his career, and 7 times the Silver Slugger for being the best power hitter at his position. I mean, you think about what second basemen were, like you said, Mitchell. It was a defensive position. This guy doesn't have to hit. He's going to bat 7th, 8th, or 9th in the lineup. And Sandberg was a unicorn. He could have played anywhere on the field. He could have played shortstop, but second base is really where he came up and was best. And it's just so interesting because I read something from John Greenberg at The Athletic about Darwin Barney, who was a later Cubs shortstop eventually. When he was blocked, I believe it was after the Javi Baez trade, maybe somewhere in the minors, or Baez was called up and Barney was playing shortstop, and Sandberg was his minor league manager. And he went to Darwin Barney and said, we're going to work at second base every single day now. You're going to be shortstop for this team, but we're going to work. And he worked at second base. And what did Darwin Barney end up becoming? A Gold Glove second baseman one season in the major leagues. I think that speaks as well to the testament of the type of person that Sandberg was amongst the baseball community, and also just how good the guy was at his job, because he could teach someone who had to learn the position pretty much from scratch how to do it, who eventually became a big leaguer and a Gold Glover one season in the bigs himself, and Barney. I thought that story, which I'd never heard before, was really illuminating. And that doesn't even account for the fact that, yeah, he played at the premium defensive position, was a premium defender, and did things that no second baseman. He had the major league record for home runs by a second baseman for a long, long time in terms of a career mark. And he just was a unicorn. He was one of one in terms of his spot in the time he played baseball and really in the history of the game.
When you look at maybe the top 5 second basemen of all time, and Tyrell, I'll take your opinion on this too. Where do you put Ryne Sandberg in the top 5 all-time second baseman? Is he a top 3 guy? Is he your number 1?
Well, I mean, would he be my number 1? Sure, why not? I mean, he hit 285. I think I'm looking at the numbers right now, so I'm cheating. But 10 times an All-Star, 9 times a Gold Glover, a WAR of 68 if you believe in wins above replacement. He was 3 times top 5 in the MVP voting. Listen, I don't think that you're going to say, if you just put the numbers up one next to the other, that Sandberg is going to be absolutely number 1 with a bullet on anybody's all-time list. But to put him in the top 5 and at the time that he was playing, I think would be completely fair, because he was a guy who did all the things you wanted to do on the field, and the only thing you could hold as a knock against him was, well, he didn't win championships and didn't go to the World Series, and all that stuff is true. But I don't feel like, in terms of evaluation of baseball careers, we should be looking at that and saying that's the be-all and end-all. Look at the guy's stats, hold him up to any comparable time in history, or try to take his era and move it to another, and he'd have played anywhere. I mean, he stole 340 bases. He's one of 7 players to ever hit 280 home runs or more. He just barely did 280, and steal 340 bases or more. That guy is a top 5 player at his position all time, I think, if you're able to pull something like that off, and Sandberg was able to do it.
Matt, we know you got to run. We appreciate you coming on the show today. Tyrell and I will be back with the top of the 6th. Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for coming, man.